Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to be enjoying our very first in depth look at this topic of real obstacles in learning English. We talked about overcoming obstacles. We did an overview last week, and that was really cool. I enjoyed seeing that many of you had come to experience this with us. And now I see even more of you here. I want to say hi to Monera, who's out there. And of course, Yan is there, very faithful supporters of our whole channel. We are Teliko Vima English, and we've got multiple venues to help you out. Tonight, we're going to spend quality time talking about real obstacles. Very, very real obstacles for many of you if you're not involved in those obstacles right now, meaning they're not hindering you right now, then maybe you can recall a time when they were. And so this will become a learning tool for those who are still dealing with it, and it will help you to understand maybe what was going on and why you couldn't seem to overcome that obstacle at the time. Very real obstacles. When I talk with people online, I talk with them and I discover right away that they're super intelligent and focused and committed. And yet there's things that keep them from growing in their English fluency and developing. And so that's why we're talking about this tonight. So if you're enjoying this, share it. Go ahead and send everyone your link, but it will be on our channel shortly after the broadcast with some mild editing and be available for you guys to watch and share again, okay? All right. Well, let's get into this. The very first thing we're going to talk about is the reality, as I just said, that there can be both real and perceive obstacles in learning English. And one of the very first ones that we encounter is a lack of access to quality resources. There's not enough resources that are of quality level for people to ingest and process and grow from. It could be that not having access to good quality books, like to own, because many books cost money or they cost too much money, or quite a few books are digital now, and maybe you don't have that kind of a connection or hardware to accommodate such things. Audio materials, like how to hear and listen to what's going on when someone is saying something differently than you or pronouncing a word or two, or language courses. And so this can impede your progress or slow it down or even stop it and make learning English difficult. If you've ever experienced that, go ahead and acknowledge with your head nod right now. I can't see you, but I can imagine that that's a real thing for a lot of people that I talk with. And so we're going to go a little deeper with this. This is just the listing of the obstacles, but when you see the next few slides, we're going to give you some viable options, meaning that these are doable. You could probably do some of these and overcome this obstacle to a point or maybe even completely. So let's look at this next one here. So we talked about online resources. Well, I'm going to say this many times when we're together, but Teliko Vima English, we're kind of headquarters. Our headquarters is on HelloTalk. HelloTalk is a wonderful language app, and you can use many of their resources for free. I would say most all of them have at least a free section. Like if you want language lessons, they give you a couple samples, or you can just try it for a few days before you commit. But most of it, the interaction with other people from around the world who may want to even learn your native language, and you can just practice English together. And the app modules that they have for practicing are really creative and useful. So I would invite you all to go to HelloTalk because they are very reputable. I've been with them over 3 years, and I know that they're still growing. They don't have many of the things that we would want one complete place to have, but I would say they have a good 80-90% of all that you need and want for free. And if you choose to join there on Hello Talk, it's a very reasonable amount of money to join. You can even join for a few months at a time. Now, utilizing online resources like Hello Talk, reputable environment language learning app, it's very safe and secure, very few inappropriate things that happen, hardly any at all. And when they do, you can report them as far as people treating it like a social app and things like that. And online courses that offer high quality materials for learning English. Now, listen, if you want to get with a private tutor and pay that money, there's that's available on Hello Talk. There are tutors and teachers and people who pick their own amount of money per class. What you should, and most of them stay very, very, very reasonable. But I would say that you should use all of the resources available and exhaust them before you consider putting out extra money for that private tutorship. I know when I talk with people about tutoring, they they often ask me questions. Um, they often ask me questions that could have been handled by themselves. Um, so when I'm spending time with them, and when I spend time with people on Hello Talk, it's free. They finally get a hold of me, or maybe we get one-on-one time together, maybe even a video call. And some of the questions they ask, or some of the help that they're asking for, is extremely basic. They can learn that from other students. So what I'm constantly inviting them to do and hoping that they do is to get with other students. There are different level students. The higher level students want to practice their English, so they don't mind talking with lower level students. They can even try to teach you how they have the results that they have. And by doing so, they will reinforce what they know because they've had to break it down and teach you. And then when you have somebody that is you feels below you, or behind you, or in a lower level, then you can teach them some of the things that helped you to get along. You see, you can have a group for free on Hello Talk. And by having that group, you can share these resources with each other, and everyone can practice. Now, every single day when every single day we have a live stream on Hello Talk. And that live stream has a different topic every day. So when you're there on the live stream, you can use that topic for your source, for your group, for your small group. Often I paste or send the information in what's called a moment, meaning like a posting, and it's accessible to you. So with very little initiative, actually, very little struggle, you can do some of the same things we're already doing, but do it with one another, and thus give yourself more time to practice. And that's the really important thing. Visiting libraries or language learning centers. Visiting libraries or language learning centers. So if you have these in your region or in your country, that's great. Don't underestimate the power of a library. I mean, there are libraries that are very well equipped with computers, with Wi-Fi in our country. I don't know what it's like in your country, but you can go utilize these places that have audio resources, and language exchange programs. Now, programs where they facilitate different languages getting together, and that's excellent, actually. Hello Talk does that as well. So I'm going to keep saying Hello Talk because it's a really good app for learning English or any other language. You can do it by appointment. You can make appointments with each other. You can schedule it and set a time limit for it. So even if you only have a little bit of time, you can do it there. Now, so utilizing online resources and visiting libraries is one way to go ahead and overcome the lack of access to quality resources. Another one of the reasons, actual real reasons or obstacles to limit you in your English learning is limited exposure to the language. So if learners don't have the opportunity to hear or speak English on a regular basis, it can be challenging to become proficient. Now, many countries teach English throughout their schooling, and so most of their population becomes very good at speaking English. Um, at writing and reading English, but when it comes to speaking English, they're really underdeveloped. They don't have native sounding people to practice with, and each person is practicing with one another and reinforcing their accent and other maybe even mispronunciations. So you may not have the opportunity to speak even English on a regular basis. Maybe everyone's learned it, but nobody is speaking it. And so when you learn English, you want to speak it so you can become proficient in the language. So if you have a limited exposure to the language, we have some assistance here to help you to overcome that. Here we go. So surround yourself with English. Surround yourself with English. What does that mean? It means create an English learning environment by watching English movies, TV shows, or listening to English podcasts and radio stations, most of which we have on Teliko Vima English. Immerse yourself, it's called. It's actually called immersion. And you need to immerse yourself in English. What does that do? Well, when there's English immersion, your brain becomes desperate. If it's just a hobby or a fun thing you say from time to time, your brain may not respond the way you want it to, like with full concentration, with the desire to retain and recall. But when your brain feels like it's desperate, like if you were to move to another country where they did not even speak your language at all, then you would experience that desperation, that frustration, and then your brain would kick into overdrive. It would realize that you couldn't order groceries without speaking this new language, and you couldn't do a lot of the basic things without learning this new language, English. Therefore, through desperation, your brain would give it a higher priority, and you would end up learning faster. And of course, you'd be using it every day. People would ask you the same question until you understood what they were saying, and then finally you'd have an answer. When we're talking in Teliko Vima English, there's something called making the world your classroom. And that means a couple of different things, but one of the things it means is that when you encounter a challenging dialogue or interaction with someone, that becomes your new study. When you go home, you think about what you wish you could have said in that language, and you write it down and translate it into English because you probably thought it in your native language, and you're like, oh, how do I say this? How do I say this in English? I don't know. And so writing it down and translating it into English and then polishing it, making it like a real dialogue, a natural, not textbook, because no one really talks like that. But creating an actual dialogue, and maybe there are 5 words or so that are brand new to you. So taking those words and making them into phrases and creating a dialogue so that the next time that situation comes up, or you can even bring that situation up again with a coworker or with the same people that were trying to talk to you before, and you will know what to say just the way you wanted to. This process of making the world your classroom gives you a very realistic goal. It makes you want to overcome realistic situations, things that have happened to you or that could potentially happen to you with very basic conversations. So that would be your tutor in essence, that you would wait until you have that challenge or consider where you might have a challenge and then study that. Just 4 or 5 words a week, guys. And then after you've got them memorized, you will not only have them memorized, but you will have them in phrases that you would and do use. And not only will you remember it and recall it, but your brain will start to consider using these phrases in other ways for other conversations. So it's very, very useful, making the world your classroom in that way. And that brings us to the next point, is engaging in conversations. Find a language exchange partner on HelloTalk. Join English speaking groups or clubs on HelloTalk. Or participate in language exchange platforms like on HelloTalk, Teliko Vima English live stream, to practice speaking and listening. To practice speaking and listening. So HelloTalk has most of these available in one way, shape, or form. They have language exchange partners. They have an English speaking groups you can start or join. And you can participate in language exchange platforms like our live stream every day. Practice speaking and listening. Very, very effective for what you want to do. And we enjoy HelloTalk a lot. Monera, who's in the chat, is actually our moderator. She facilitates a lot of stuff. And Yen is often there with helpful input, and she helps in the chat to keep people engaged and answer frequently asked questions. Of course, there is monitoring not only by the software app, the app software, but people who are moderators can also engage with people who may be saying things inappropriate or something like that, and even invite them to leave, like remove them from the group for one day and then follow up with them and let them know what they did wrong. And even Ruslan, who just joined the chat, he's very active in Teliko Vima English in our group calls. It's a wonderful community. We're forming friendships, and we're helping share resources and encourage one another. So as we're talking about here is engaging in conversations. So finding the courage and using the courage to engage in these conversations. You know, many times on Hello Talk, people will come to stage and they won't turn on their camera. You can have 3 people on stage with the host. They won't turn on their camera. And I've been getting a little more strict about that being a requirement for our community because of my friend and fellow live streamer, Mick, M-I-K in Texas. He requires it because he wants people to talk to each other and develop their English fluency in an as close as possible actual situation, you know, strangers talking on his live stream. And I also want that. I know that that is a very big deal. If they're not turning on their camera, then they're probably not initiating conversations with other English speakers, and they're definitely not looking for Native Americans in parts of their country or city and trying to stir up a conversation. And I get it. There's fear, but you have to use your courage so that your courage grows and your fear decreases in its power and size. And then you get what is called experience. And when you've had a positive experience, it increases your confidence. And then your confidence helps to strengthen your courage. They're all connected if you think about it. But if you don't try it all, then yes, you won't fail, but you won't gain confidence. You won't gain experience. Your courage will stay small and the fear will continue to grow on you. So give that some thought, play this back and listen to it again. There's some wisdom in there, and check it out. We're moving forward, talking today about different things that are actual obstacles. And we talked about in this section right now, limited exposure to the language. And so we're giving you some overcoming tips, like surrounding yourself with English in what you watch and listen and read and see all around you. We have podcasts also as Teliko Vima English, and also as Truly Pivotal Moments. By the way, if you want to, or if you wouldn't mind, please click on the subscribe button right there. That's an actual link button, and that'll give you a subscription to Teliko Vima English. We appreciate your support in that way. Now, difficulty in understanding English grammar is the next one that can be a very real obstacle for you, because English grammar is very inconsistent in the rules. When you think of UK grammar, you think of consistency. They've been speaking it longer. They still have a thread of culture, and they pride themselves on having these consistencies in what they do. It's a very good thing. And so, therefore, I think you would find more consistency in the way English grammar in the UK is taught, shared, used, than when you're going for the United States and our forms of English grammar. It can be quite confusing. English grammar can, in fact, be complex because of those exceptions, and difficult to understand, especially for learners who speak languages that have a different grammar structure. So it's one thing if you're from Latin-based languages, they carry a lot of similarities: Italian, Spanish, English, I believe French as well, Portuguese, things like this. They have a similar structure, similar enough to learn them relatively easily. But when you're switching to, say, a tonal language like Mandarin or Cantonese or Vietnamese, you may have some real struggles because those languages are structured differently. Their letters are different. They have tones that indicate and designate words. The tones establish what the words mean, and we just use tone for emotion mostly in English. So when you're from big differences like that, it can be very hard and very confusing. But of course, we have a way. So you can just start with the basics. In fact, I ordered a book about basic grammar in English, and it's one of the things I'd like to incorporate and share with you guys. In that way, I can help you to understand some of the fundamentals. So starting with the basics, focus on learning the fundamental grammar rules and structures before progressing to more complex concepts. Use textbooks, online resources, or seek guidance from a tutor. Let me give you a bit of a news flash. I ordered another book today, and I was going to pay, I think, $12 for it. And it offered me to download it for free. Like, get the digital version for free or pay $12 for the book. And I was like, free? I really like free. So I did. I downloaded the digital version. It gave it to me for free. It was in my reader. It's right there now. And I'm going to definitely read it and ingest it, process it, and share what I glean from it. So free is great. If you have a Kindle app, you don't have to have an actual Kindle hardware, but just the app on your laptop or what have you. You should be able to download those kinds of things, many of them for free. I don't know how that works, but it worked. So getting these resources, as we're talking about, starting with the basics if you're concerned about grammar inconsistencies and challenges with grammar. Start back with the basics. Make sure your basics are reinforced, and then you will be able to build upon that. You can't build upon it if you're not reinforcing the foundation. The other thing is practice through exercises, like complete grammar exercises to reinforce your understanding. Many online platforms offer interactive grammar quizzes and exercises. Especially if you're taking courses, like if you're practicing for the IELTS exam or the TOEFL exam, there are many free apps and resources that you can practice actual exams and get your timing down and understand what's expected of you. So absolutely, absolutely. And thank you guys for crushing the like as you listen to this. Appreciate it. So practicing through exercises to, again, reinforce the foundation and to develop your confidence so that when you take the actual test, you will not have as much, or you won't give into the fear as much because you have higher confidence, right? That's what we're talking about. Overcoming these obstacles, very real obstacles, and yet very real solutions if you're just paying attention here. Now, pronunciation and cultural barriers we put together. So English pronunciation can be challenging for non-native speakers. And we have different sounds and pronunciation rules. Now, Ruslan says American English is way less formal in terms of convoluted grammar, like complicated or twisting grammar constructions compared to the British one. We're more idiomatic, I guess. Glean, of course, means to retrieve, or no, it doesn't. We'll talk about that later. So pronunciation and cultural barriers. English pronunciation can be challenging, like we said, for non-natives. But look, guys, there's a way to overcome this too. So listen and imitate. Listen and imitate. Pay attention, not just now, but all the time. Pay attention to the pronunciation of native speakers and practice imitating their sounds and intonation patterns. Watch videos or listen to audio recordings to improve your pronunciation. And so what we also try to do with our community is I invite everyone to direct message me. If they want me to repeat something or speak something in an audio clip for them, I can do that. Of course, we refer them to YouTube for the videos that are here and the opportunity to be on live stream like this, to have questions and answers at the end. So those of you who are listening, we will have a time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end for questions and answers. So write down your questions as we go if you have any. And then at the end, I will read what you're asking in the chat and also give you an answer. Now, practice speaking with native speakers is another way to overcome this particular obstacle. And I don't mean just, waiting until this can happen. I would say that you should seek out people who are near native, and they will be more available than someone who's actually native. But engaging in conversations with native or near native English speakers, either in person or through language exchange platforms like Hello Talk, to receive feedback and improve your pronunciation. Listening to how they say it and then you say it to imitate it is very, very, very useful. It's called shadowing. And so when I work with people to help them to hear what I'm hearing, the reason is they make the best teachers ever because they can self-correct. So they can learn to hear the difference between how they're saying it now and how they want to say it, and they can correct themselves, stop themselves, or go back over what they had just said. That is very, very valuable to be able to hear and self-correct. Very, very valuable. And you can give yourself feedback. Also, give yourself a timeline. Like if you're going to do this, then record yourself at the very beginning of your efforts. That way you can listen to it later and hear your own progress. Learn about cultural nuances. Language and culture are closely intertwined in most countries, so make an effort to understand the cultural context behind certain language expressions or idioms. This will help you to communicate more effectively. Now, on YouTube, we have a series of videos that are called idioms. In fact, there's a playlist for idioms on YouTube. So if you've gone ahead and subscribe to us, then you can look for that playlist. Or you can just I made a playlist that says all videos. So you can click on that and let it ride and listen to it in the background like a podcast until you hear something that really catches your ear. And then you can, watch that one several times or create a comment or what have you. But we're trying to make these resources abundant. Even if you're in China, if you know someone in China, we have a WeChat group as well as the Hello Talk app is from China. And we also upload to Bilibili and Redbook in China. So we're trying to be as available as possible to everyone. Now, one of the things here is persistence and consistency. This is a key. I should have put a picture of a key here. This is a key. You need to develop and maintain persistence, which means you have to be consistent. If you just start and then stop and then start again and stop, you're not going to get much progress. So persistency and consistency, or persistence and consistency. So number one, set clear goals. Define what you want to achieve in your English learning journey and break it down into smaller, achievable goals. Achievable goals will build your confidence. And remember what we said, confidence gives you like an immune system boost. You're no longer distracted or drawn into those insecure moments or situations. Your confidence is higher. You won't be as afraid. You'll apply your courage. And if you do make a mistake, you'll see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. So it's really important to set small goals that you can accomplish to develop your confidence and make sure they're achievable and leading towards a bigger goal. And the next is to establish a study routine. Dedicate regular time to practicing English, whether it's daily or a few times a week. Consistency is key to making progress. Consistency is key in making progress. Here we go. Stay motivated. It sounds easier than when you read it, but staying motivated, finding ways to stay motivated, tracking your progress that we just talked about, rewarding yourself for milestones, which is very important, or finding a study partner for mutual support. All of these things help you to stay motivated. It's very, very important. We're not quite done yet. Let's go to full camera. So staying motivated, staying engaged. I saw something else on there I wanted to share with you guys. I think is this one, no? There we go. Find ways to stay motivated. Now we talk about this as well, finding ways to stay motivated. When you're learning, you need to have a balance. It's not like an equal balance, but it is keep in consideration. You want to be like this, but not like this. So in one way, this would be challenging yourself and being able to experience that resistance of challenge and choosing to press on, even if you don't want to, reinforcing your commitment and continuing on. But what you also need is what this is down here. And this represents having fun with English, Have fun with it. You have to have an element of having fun. If it's nursery rhymes or tongue twisters or debates or singing songs or whatever it is, you have to have an element of fun to refresh you. Otherwise, you can very quickly burn out and then you'll just give up, right? So if you have an element of fun and you're building strong relationships with people, that makes you want to talk more to them and to get to know them, then these things will help you to maintain the course that we're talking about here, is staying motivated. So learning a language does take time, guys. And during that time, celebrate your milestones whenever you accomplish a decent goal, and keep your study partner, like find someone and try to keep them, and then celebrate your achievements along the way. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, as they are a natural part of the learning process. Now, making mistakes, I talk to people in our group and I say that making mistakes is actually the only way you learn what you need to work on. Failure points out what we need to work on. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of failure. Make sure you look at it and realize that there's an opportunity to learn and to grow from your failures. Now, this is the point here where we're getting towards the end, but I want to open it up for questions. So if you're in the chat right now, you can go ahead and ask questions about this topic today. Keep it focused. We want to ask questions in regard to obstacles and overcoming these obstacles. Remember, we are Teliko Vima English, as I'm waiting for people to ask questions in the chat room. We are daily 4 a.m. We Pacific Standard Time. We live stream on Hello Talk. We're doing this particular live stream every Saturday at 8 o'clock. There will usually be a series with slides. This will be the format for our Saturday night like now. And then we'll do some brief editing and then present it onto our channel so you can catch up or review it as well. And we are on so many places. We're in podcast as Truly Pivotal Moments. Podcast is Truly Pivotal Moments. We are, of course, here. Please hit the subscribe button over here. And we are also in a couple of apps in China, Bilibili and Redbook. And in TikTok here, international, as well as YouTube. So I would have to say our priorities are Hello Talk and then YouTube and then TikTok. The podcasts come and go, but there's still a lot of them already saved up for you. Okay, if there are no questions from the chat, then we will go to this final set of slides here. We're going to close here. This is Teliko Vima English, Real Obstacles in Learning English. Next Saturday, we will be talking about perceived obstacles. Perceived obstacles. Obstacles that you think are there but are not actually there. Interesting, right? Well, I hope so. That's what we want to do with you here. And I thank you guys for coming. This is by far the biggest turnout for the live event to date. And I expect that after we publish this, that there will be many more views. Yeah, absolutely. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to close right now. So please join us here. Subscribe, like, share. Teliko Vima English. We look forward to seeing you this time next week. All right, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again.